Diante, I'm so honored to speak for Neshei Chabad of Crown Heights, the real engine of the Rebbe Melech HaMashiach's locomotive bringing Geula. I'm also honored to speak in connection with the yard site of Kuti Rap. As Fegi said, we go back a long time. My Shabbos Sheva Brachos. This was Shabbos Parshas Kiseitze of Tafshin Mem Ches of 1988. So in the Farbrenyan, the Rebbe spoke about an innovative concept: bring Mashiach through joy. And right after was my Sheva Brachos at the Marlows, and Kuti was there. And what was he doing? He was pushing Rabbi Marlow to express and show more joy. Because for Kuti, the Rebbe's inyanim were his inyanim. Obviously, Fegi mentioned Shleimus Haaretz, also bringing people to the Rebbe. Possibly he brought more people to the Rebbe than anyone else. You see it video after video of dollars lines. And in general, all the inyanim of the Rebbe. I just saw recently someone who was in Kvutza of Tafshin Nun Dalet, 1994. Well, it was Gimel Tamuz, Tafshin Nun Dalet, 1994. And he was sitting. This bacher was sitting. On one side was Penny Korf. On one side was Kuti Rap. And he burst out. Now what? And they both said, I wasn't there. I don't know simultaneously, but they both said, we have to continue. We know what we need to do, and we need to do it. And that is why we are here now. Fegi asked me to talk about Geula Pratis, Geula Klalis. And that was very kind of Fegi, because Hashgacha Pratis, the Rebbe touches on this in this week's Devar Malchus, of Balak of 1991. The Rebbe there discusses the enormous nowness, the current cutting-edge Mashiach reality. It's amazing, it's exciting, it's breathtaking. And the Rebbe says, we still don't get it. We still are stuck. We tell ourselves these exciting things, but we don't feel them organically on the inside. And one reason is because we are stuck within our own Golos Pnimi, our own inner exile. I'm going to share a personal Golos Pnimi story, just to demonstrate. So my youngest, Beryl, was born 11 years ago. 11 years ago, I already felt a little older, so I was a little concerned. And I remember writing in about a week before he was born, maybe 6 days before he was born. And I opened up to a beautiful bracha of the Rebbe, beautiful reassurance. The Rebbe said there, Brius begashmius kipshuto, ubrius beruchnius. Health on the physical plane, as is obvious, and health spiritually. Okay, all is amazing. A week later, Beryl was born, my beautiful Down syndrome child. And I was trying to process everything, and I said to myself, well, I know one thing for sure. He's going to be healthy. That's what the Rebbe said. And then I found out that there were issues with his hearing. And then I found out there were issues with his heart. And I was like, Rebbe, no, we're done. This is not Brius. This is not health. There's a whole nice miracle with the hearing. I'm not talking about that tonight. We'll just focus on the heart. So Beryl had an issue with the mitral valve of his heart. Many details that we're not going to take the time to talk about. Many details, many things happened, and the years go by. And he's walking around with his mitral valve deficit or issue. He's healthy. He's jumping, he's running, he's faster than I am, and he needs open heart surgery. And it gets pushed off, it gets delayed. I'm grateful, but of course lurking in the background is open heart surgery. And to my little brain, that does not feel like health. And this year he had it, a little over 2 months ago. And before the surgery, I was really like, Rebbe, you said Brius, you said health. This doesn't feel like health. And he went in for the surgery. And I'm like, a little kicking and screaming in the background, where's my Brius, where's my health, what's going on? And as the surgery progressed, they came out of the operating room to tell me this news, which to be honest, I didn't really digest at that time. But they said the surgeon found a huge hole in the wall of his heart. And don't worry, he's dealing with it. Later, the surgeon explained to me the story. He said he opened up his heart and he saw something he never, ever saw before in his entire career. My 11-year-old, healthy, active son has been walking around with a major hole. I read the reports from the surgery. They write it there. Major hole in his heart, a hole that you can't live with, that you can't have your heart function with, that you can't have your lungs function with. And he's been doing this for 11 years. And the doctor explained what happened. He said, this is also something he's never seen his entire life. Generally in a heart, we have two sides, the right, the left, and a little space in between. By Beryl, there's the right, there's the left, and there's no space in between. The right and left ventricles of the heart were literally touching. And he said because of that, the cardiologist never caught it, the machines never saw it, and he functioned for 11 years. And therefore, he didn't have open heart surgery when he was a newborn. He had it when he had a healthy 11-year-old heart with healthy, thick, muscular heart tissue, and it was fine, and he's already in camp now. And I remember just feeling like, yeah, you're right. Thank you. There was Brias. It was health. So we all have this. We all have our self-imposed, self-created mini exiles that travel with us wherever we go. Our weaknesses, our insecurities, our self-doubts, our false beliefs, our lack of trust. You know what I'm talking about. The Rebbe says, it's here. It's now. It's high time. And we are enthused, but we schlep our darkness with us. And now, it's not 1991. We're not in Tufshin and Aleph. It's 2024. It's Tufshin Pei Dalet. So seemingly, our Golos Prati should be thicker. The walls should be a trophy. They should be hardened over time. We've gone through a lot since 1991. And that's not true. For all of us, we are far more ready now to slip out of the Golos veneer and embrace the Geula reality. For 30 years, we've believed, irrationally. We've clung to the Rebbe's vision, the Rebbe's words. To believe now, like in 1991, is to believe far more deeply than we ever believed then. And we've been doing this for 30 years. We're old, we're tired, and we are muscled. So the advice of the Rebbe is even more true as we are internally so much more able to hear it, learn Inyane Geula Mashiach. That will transfer you from Golos to Geula. Why? Because we're stuck in that self-created, self-imposed mud of reality. And Torah transcends. Torah is beyond. When I cling to the higher reality, it can lift me up past my stuck state. When I learn Torah and fuse with its energy, I get past my limited worldview and see reality as Torah does, as an extension of Torah's vantage point, as Geula. And then you begin to live it, as the Rebbe says, with the knowledge and emotion that Mashiach is coming now. Torah changes us. Last week, I had, so to speak, a Gimel Tamuz for Branyan with one of my classes, a group of women, the Karavos of mine, and we were sharing. So one woman said, now I never knew this before she shared this, that she had been in one of my classes and I was talking about a concept she never ever heard of. It was called an animal soul. And she said she was so struck by the idea that she has an animal inside of her. She's not feeding that animal any bad animal anymore. And at that moment she said, no more not kosher meat in my house. She heard one class. It was not a class about kashrus. It was a tiny class. And there was such a transformation from one Torah bite. And Baruch Hashem, now she's already completely kosher. Now, we can all share such stories. It's sort of easier to see the impact when you go from one extreme to the other. But it's equally true for all of us, for everyone here as well. Each one of us, we might feel, I don't have any cool stories, so to speak. Scratch under your skin, because as we learn, Torah changes us. You change. You are the cool story. It's you based Tamuz. I'll bring in something from the Rebbe Rayatz. So after 1927, the Rebbe Rayatz ultimately left Russia, and once you leave, it's a one-way ticket. There's no going back. And he wanted to daven by the Kfarim, by Kivrei Avos. Well, he couldn't go to Rostov, and he couldn't go to Lubavitch. He went to Eretz Yisrael. As we know, the famous trip of the Rebbe Rayatz to Eretz Yisrael. In Eretz Yisrael, he met with Rav Kook. Now, Rav Kook, who you might have heard of, but you might not have known, was a great adherent of the Rebbe Rashab. Rav Kook was originally from Russia. He knew the Rebbe Rashab in Russia, and he really admired him. So he was so excited that the Rebbe Rashab's son is coming to Eretz Yisrael. And the two meet, and they're talking very warmly, and Rav Kook is sharing his memories, all of the amazing miracles he experienced, he saw by the Rebbe Rashab. And then he finally says to the Rebbe Rayatz, tell me, you're the only son. Tell me, what was the greatest miracle you ever experienced, you ever saw by your father? And the Rebbe Rayatz responded, the greatest miracle of my father, of the Rebbe Rashab, are the Hasidim. We, with the Rebbe's help, with the Rebbe's support, we are self-made miracles with Torah, the most powerful tool in our arsenal. So I'm giving you a very simple, very straight message. Through Torah, get out of your gullus, embrace your geula. And that's great. We love simple. But why is Torah the force that moves us? Well, Torah is different. Most mitzvahs, you can do the mitzvah without any understanding of it. It's not gripping your mind. It's gripping your hands, your legs, your heart, your abdomen, your credit card. But to do the mitzvah of Torah, you need to understand. That's why Torah is the only food for the soul. When I learn Torah, by definition, I am digesting its godliness. If I don't digest it, if I don't chew it and break it down to bite sizes and swallow, well, I didn't do the mitzvah at all. So as I mentally digest the Torah, I spiritually digest it as well, and Torah creates the only food my soul ever gets. To fulfill the mitzvah of learning Torah, you need to understand. Your mind needs to change. As Tanya explains, you contain the idea, and the idea of Torah contains you. Your mind gets stretched and refashioned and reformed. It's bigger, it's broader, it's holier. Torah is the only mitzvah where our mind is the subject through which Hashem's will is fulfilled. When my mind changes, now Torah was learned. And by definition, I change as well. Another connected to Yubei's Tamuz story. After the Maisa, the Rebbe Rayatz once reflected and said something that so resonates with me. I probably share it very regularly. The Rebbe Rayatz said, and he meant this, no exaggerations here. He said, if before the 15th of Sivan, when he was arrested, if someone had said to me, you know what's happening, you know what's going to be, if he knew what was happening, and he could have given all the money in the world to save himself, even a few minutes of that suffering, he would have done it for all the money in the world. And the Rebbe Rayatz did not have money, but all the money of the world to save himself, even a few minutes of that suffering. But now, the Rebbe Rayatz says, after the incarceration, post Yubei's Tamuz of 1927, if someone would want to buy off of him even a few minutes of his suffering, he wouldn't sell it for all the money in the world. What he went through, he changed, and he would never willingly give that up. And when we learn Torah, each time we change, and nobody can ever take that away from us either. But to really shift, to get Geula, don't bring your preconceptions to the table. When a Jew learns Torah, Hashem is sitting and learning with him. Let Hashem be the teacher. When you're learning a Sikha, let the Rebbe guide you. Don't guide the Rebbe. Don't pull out what you want to hear. Completely absorb what the Rebbe is teaching. So, another teaching of the Rebbe, in Tazrim Asar of 1991, the Rebbe instructs us that the straight path, the straightest road to bring Mashiach is to learn Mashiach. And we probably know that. But there's more. The Rebbe also explains, fascinatingly, why Torah has this power to make Mashiach happen. Mashiach himself is our ultimate king and teacher. As king, he gives us bimakif, in an encompassing fashion, what we can't possibly intellectually absorb. And we absorb it as per our nullification to him. He's our king. And then he's also our Rav. He's our teacher. And as the teacher, he has an inner relationship with us. He teaches us, and in doing so, it's like he gives birth to us. So we could think, Mashiach gives me what's too big for me, and I sort of sense it in this like fuzzy, distant way. And he also so strongly impacts me and teaches me directly that it's like he gave birth to me. Is that correct? Actually, not. Because we're not talking about two people. One the teacher and one the king. We're talking about Mashiach himself. And Mashiach himself is our king and he's our teacher. So 1 and 1 do not equal 2. Because there's a synergy going on here. Because Melech HaMashiach is the teacher and the king. So these energies, the Mashiach, Melech, king energies, too big for us to absorb, are internalized and digested by us with the power of Torah, the power of Rav, of Mashiach being our teacher. Those too big for the box are in the box. Torah has this unique power to draw within energies that are truly beyond. So by a Jew learning about Mashiach in Torah, we are tapping into the transformer. We are accessing too big energies and we're bringing them into this world reality. And that creates the straight road to Geula. This movement of too big within, the Rebbe often goes back to it. It's the core, it's the crux of the Mashiach reality. This world cannot contain Hashem revealed. It would self-destruct. And by Mashiach, Hashem will be completely, permanently revealed on the level of his very essence and being, and the world will continue to exist. And exist as a physical world through Torah. Torah changes us. Torah changes our world. Torah changes our mind. And Torah, Kivyachol, changes Hashem. In a Maimer of the Rebbe of 1965, the Nachal of Ruach Hashem, Ruach Havaya, the Rebbe says how everything Mashiach will reveal, even as our Rav, our teacher, his hat of Torah is on, it's all based on the Avodah we did in Galus. Beautiful. But then the Rebbe goes really strong. Because in the footnote, the Rebbe writes, what are we talking about? What energies are we going to experience in Mashiach that actually come from the work we did in Galus? And the Rebbe says two things. The Rebbe says, we are talking about critical changes to Hashem, revelation of the infinite primordial light, for which tzimtzum, for which the constrictions were needed. By Mashiach, those lights will shine in creation. That which was previously, so to speak, impossible for Hashem will be happening. And we have even more. There will be a revelation of the inner dimension of essence itself, the pnimius and atzmos of the Ein Sof. Energy that was not initially will be, will shine. That is what we'll experience by Mashiach. Through Torah, we're changing ourselves, and we are, Kivyachol, changing Hashem as well. So, what's the bottom line? We are supremely powerful women. Supremely powerful movers and shakers of all past, present, and future. In this reality, and in all the spiritual realities. It's all happening here. It's all happening by us. And it's all happening now. What didn't happen in 1927, what didn't happen in 1991, is happening now, 2024, and our little acts, especially as we're emphasizing little acts of learning Torah, are huge acts in the cosmic story. Because as I said, we're very powerful. With the power of Torah, we are women of iron, of barzel, which is, of course, very relevant this year as we are in the midst of Operation Iron Swords, Charvot Barzel. So Eretz Yisrael needs iron, and we are the iron. Nothing is stam, random. This year, in December of 2023, the National Geographic magazine listed as the most exciting archaeological discovery of 2023, 4 perfectly preserved Roman swords. About 1900 years old, probably hidden by Bar Kokhba's soldiers, found in a cave near the Yam HaMelech, the iron, wood, and leather all intact. Nothing stung. 4 iron swords, 4 initial women of the Jewish people. Operation Iron Sword. And we, all of us, Neshei Chabad, with the power of Torah, we are women of iron. So what is this iron? It sounds good, it sounds strong, but spiritually, meaning in reality, what's iron? What's Barzel? So the Rebbe discusses Barzel on Asar B'Teves and Shabbos Vayechi of 1992. I remember as a child learning Barzel as a mnemonic device. Beis Reish Zayin Lamed Barzel, Bilha Rachel, Zilpa Leah. That's how you remember who goes to who. But that's actually not a cute technique for children. There's a huge, deep spiritual point in Bilha Rachel, Zilpa Leah. Barzel of Klippa, the maidservant stands in front, a chutzpah. Bilha blocking Rachel, Zilpa before Leah, that's Barzel, that's iron. And that's why no iron could be found in the construction of the Beit HaMikdash, of the temple. But the Rebbe tells us there's also Barzel of Kedusha, the iron of godliness. Bilha Rachel, Zilpa Leah. The maidservant, us, can lead the way. Because the maidservant takes that energy of Yaakov and brings it down to a lower dimension, to where Yaakov can't go, to where Rachel and Leah can't go. That's where Bilha and Zilpah go. That's where the maidservants go. And that's us. We are the women of Barzel, of iron. As we learn the Rebbe's Torahs, we take the Rebbe, and like Bilha, like Zilpah, we can bring the Rebbe to a far lower dimension than the Rebbe would ever access himself. In our generation, Barzel, iron, has become holy because we're the generation of Geula. It's happening now. As the Rebbe points out, David couldn't build the Beis HaMikdash. His hands were too bloody, but he prepared for it. He gathered all the required materials, including 100,000 kikarim of Barzel. What does he need 100,000 kikarim of iron in a temple that has no iron? To be used for the building of the ultimate Beis HaMikdash, made of gold, silver, copper, and iron. So they found the iron swords. The war is iron swords. We are building a Beis HaMikdash of iron, and we are the iron. We are the maidservants who, with the strength of Torah, and especially with the strength of the Rebbe's Torah, descend into the world, into the grime and muck of physicality, to bring the Rebbe everywhere. May you Nashim Tzidkanios, women of iron, the engine of the Rebbe's Geula train, please make it happen now. Thank you.